So like we were saying earlier, like your honey's pretty much the pure stuff, just with the
Yep.
little particle like bee parts and maybe branch parts filtered out or whatever. Now that you have 4,000 hives, I mean, you've done a lot of expanding, and when you expand a company like yours, I imagine there's a lot of energy that goes into like figuring out where to put those hives.
Yeah.
And making sure that there's not things to pollute the honey.
Yeah.
How do you go about that process?
So you can't stop honey from taking on pollutants or things that could make it inedible. But what you can do is you can test it after it's harvested. And honey is remarkably good at cleaning itself. So let's say that some dirt or some sticks or leaves got into the honey, or even some chemical agents of whatever kind got in there. Honey is very good at isolating those things and floating them up to the top where you can skim them off. And so that, well, like I'll give you one example. The Mexican wildfires from I think about 8 years ago, there was a lot of ash in the air. It was very, very high content ash particles in the air. And I was very concerned because it was starting to show up a little bit in our honey.
Mm-hmm.
What we discovered was that the ash only settled on the surface of the honey. It was never in the mix of honey. Sorry, we have a little bit of noise there.
Oh, no worries.
Anyway, and it just floated to the top. And so what we could do is just skim that off and then retest it, and it tested clean after that point. So we also test frequently for all sorts of agrochemicals, but our solution to that is we place all of our hives on ranch land or undeveloped land and away from areas where you're going to find a lot of dumpsters that people put chemicals in, especially like say I don't know, a dumpster behind a restaurant or something where you're going to get a lot of high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
So the bees are in relatively isolated places, and because of that, the land that they're feeding off of is very clean land. One big surprise that we had early on is that we tried for a short time to put hives on organic farms, thinking that because they're an organic farm, they must be very, very clean. But what we ended up seeing was a lot of HMO pollens were coming back in the honey, as well as like high fructose corn syrup type sweeteners. And we were like, where is that coming from? And typically what it was from the workers on the farm that were leaving soda cans out or different things like that. So that's why it's important. Yeah. So that's why it's important to have the hives on land where there's not too many people and no development and no farming either, even if it's organic farming. So anyway, that's how we control contaminants in the honey. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Well, you kind of answered it. So I was just asking about controlling contaminants and also just figuring out where to put the hives, which you kind of said, like, it intuitively it makes sense to stick it in like an organic garden, but it sounds like it makes more sense in reality to put it in an area that's isolated from humans and isolated from pretty much any kind of agriculture, like serious agriculture.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why we have a Volkswagen bus as one of our keys.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a perfect camping vehicle, But the other thing is that those things, not in every situation, but in a lot of situations, they're even better than say a Jeep, because they have the rear wheel drive and they sit high off the ground.
Okay.
So you can go deep into brush if you need to, just plow right through it. And sometimes you get stuck, sometimes you don't, but most of the time you don't. So that makes them a great vehicle. And the weight comparing, the load bearing capacity of a bus is as much as our pickup. I mean, we can, we've carried close to 2 tons in our Volkswagen bus before. And I mean, it definitely taxes the bus, but it does it, and that's with just a little tiny, basically the equivalent of a lawnmower engine in it. So, it's a great vehicle.
That's awesome.